Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Green and I'm making this recording because I am going to be out this afternoon and not available to be at Class Connect. So I wanted to give you a review of the semester um, and make certain you all have that available to you. So let's see here. Okay, pick up from where I left off. Sorry, a couple things popped up just as I started the video, so I apologize about that. So what I'm going to be doing is a review of the semester. Make certain I work several problems for you so that you see how they're done. Now, if I go too fast, remember this is a recording. You can stop it, rewind it, do it again if you need to. Now, this first one says write a variable expression showing the total cost to the customer. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a shuttle van charges $12 plus 55 cents per mile to drive a customer from her home to the airport. So what I would be looking at here is the total cost is going to be equal to $12 plus 55 cents per mile. Okay, now the next thing here says to evaluate this based upon a 14-mile trip. Well, that's very simple to do. Our cost of a 14-mile trip is going to be equal to 12 plus 0.55 times 14. Now, I am not good enough to do that in my head. Okay, that's why we have calculators. So I'm going to say 12 plus uh, decimal point. Must be off the bottom of the screen. Going to move it up just a little bit there. There you go. 0.55 times 14 miles, and I get a total of $19.70. Okay, so the next question says, how many miles was the customer driven if she paid $23.55? So we're looking for C of M, number of miles, is equal to 23.55, which is equal to 12 plus 0.55 m. And we're trying to find m. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides of the equation here, and I'm going to get 11.55 is equal to 0.55 m. Now I can't do that math in my head either, so I'm going to take 11.55 divided by 0.55, and I'm going to get 21 miles. So when I divided this, I get 21 is equal to m. So that would be the answer to the third one. That would be the answer to the second one. And that would be my equation that I came up with right there. C of m. Cool. Okay, I'm going to keep working through these problems. Remember, you can stop it if you need to. Mr. Kwan bought 18 bags of fertilizer and paid $24 to have it delivered. His total cost was $86.82. Write and solve an equation to find the cost of the bag of fertilizer. So the cost of a bag is equal to $24 for delivery plus some number, some cost per bag, right? How do we want to write that? Let's see here, some value f times times the number of bags that he purchased. Now, in this particular situation, our cost for 18 bags was equal to 24 plus some factor times 18, and that was equal to 86.82. And so if I subtract the 24 from both sides, I'm going to get that sum, whatever the cost per bag is, times 18 was equal to 62.82. And if I divide 62.82 divided by 18, we get $3.49. So F is equal to $3.49. So my total, uh, my true cost per bag, or my cost function, the total cost function, is $24 plus $3.49 per bag, or each bag costs $3.49. Right there. That would be the answer to the question in this particular situation. Okay, number 3. Find the x and the y intercepts. Well, to find the x intercepts, you stick a 0 in for y. So 4x is equal to 20, x is equal to 5. To find the y-intercepts, you stick a 0 in for x. Minus 5y equals 20, and y is equal to negative 4. Okay? So that's the way you do that. You just stick y in for 0, and x equals 0. Okay? That's how you do it to find the x-intercepts. You stick a 0 in for the y's, and to find the y-intercepts, you stick a 0 in for x. Here's an equation. It says to write it in slope-intercept form. Well, this is the slope-intercept form right here. Okay? So what we've got to do is solve it for y. So I'm going to add an x to both sides of that equation. I'm going to get 5y is equal to x plus negative 15. I'm going to divide by the 5, and I'm going to get y is equal to 1/5 x minus 3. And that is my slope-intercept form right there. If a line has a slope of 2 and passes through that point, and they want me to write the equation of the line in standard form, what I'm going to start with is the point slope form. Okay? Point slope form says y minus y1, which would be a negative 10, would be equal to 2 times, that's the slope, times x minus x1, 6. And I just used this point that they gave me right here. Okay? So I can now say that y plus 10 is equal to 2x minus 12. Well, the way the standard form looks is ax plus by. So I'm going to subtract the y from both sides of this equation. And I'm going to get 10 is equal to 2x minus y minus 12. Well, I'm going to add the 12 to both sides of the equation, and I'm going to get 22 is equal to 2x minus y. I'm going to use the commutative property to actually switch the order of these two things around. 2x minus y equals 22. And there's my standard form. Okay, moving forward here. Line M passes through these 2 points. They want me to write the equation of line M in slope-intercept form. Well, first thing I need to do is find the slope M. I'm going to take 5 minus 8 divided by 8 minus 4. And that was 5 minus 8, and then 8 minus 4. And what do I get when I do this? I get negative 3 divided by 4. So I now know my slope. So I'm going to put it in point slope form. I'm going to say that y minus 8 is equal to negative 3 over 4 times x minus 4. Yep. And then I'm going to do the distributive property over here, and I'll get y minus 8 equals negative 3 over 4x plus 3. Okay? And they wanted it in slope-intercept form, so I need to add 8 to both sides of the equation. And I'll get y is equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 12. That would be slope-intercept form. That would be the answer to A. Now they want it in standard form as well, so that I'm going to add the 3/4 to both sides, and I'll get 3/4 x plus y equals 12. That would be my standard form. Okay. This one says to solve the system equation by using either substitution or linear combination method. So they're not caring which way I do it. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the second one. X is equal to 6 minus 3y. And I'm going to substitute this in for x in the first equation. And I'm going to get 2 times 6 minus 3y plus 4y equals 2. So that's 12 minus 6y plus 4y equals 2. I'm going to subtract the 12 from both sides and combine my y terms here, and I'm going to get minus 2y is equal to negative 10. Y is equal to 5. So if I put y equal 5 back into this one, I get 15. 6 minus 15, x is equal to 6 minus 15. And so x is equal to negative 9. There are my x and y values that I found by using substitution. Okay. This one wants me to do it by graphing. So the first thing we do when we're graphing linear equations is we have to get it into a format that we can graph with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve it for y, the first one here for y. So that's going to give me y is equal to 13 minus x over 2. And this other one down here is going to give me y is equal to 4 plus 3x. Okay, now to solve this equation, 13 over 2, that's 6.5. So it's going to go through that point right there at 6.5. And my slope is negative 1/2. That means it goes up 1 and over 2. That means my line looks something like that. Okay. Now this other one, it goes through the point 4, and it's got a slope of 3. That means it goes up 3 and over 1. Like that. So it looks like my intersection's at 6, 1. That's where the intersection is right here, is at, 1, comma 6. So let's try that in here. If I stick 1 in for x, I get 1 plus 6 in for y, 12 equals 13. Check, that one works. If I stick 1 in for 3, for the second one there, I get minus 3 plus 6, and that's going to be equal to 3. Whoops, that didn't equal 4 at all. What did I do wrong there? 4, slope of 3, go up 3. 1, 2, 3 over 1. There it is. Okay, that line's graphed correctly. Let's see here. 1 in there, and that gives me a negative 3. 6 in for y gives me a 6. Gives me a 3 for a total there. Doing something wrong there. Okay, see if I did this one right. 13 minus x, that gives me 6.5. That's this point right here. My slope is going to be a negative 1/2. That means it's going to go up 1 and to the right 2 to there. So when I graph that here, yeah, that's graphed correctly. So my intersection is at 1, 6. Now it's not looking like it's working correctly. So this means I need to come over here to my calculator, push y equals, and try it on here. So I'm going to have 13 minus x parentheses divided by 2. And I'm going to have 4 plus 3x. And I'm going to graph that. And like that. And I'm going to do a second graph to look at the table. And at 1, they're not quite at the same spot, are they? So maybe it's not at 1, 6. Okay? So let's go back to the graph here. What I want to do now is I want to do a calculate, and I want to find the intersection. And yes, that's the first line I want to use. That's the second line. And my guess is going to be right there. And it's going to come back and tell me that it's at 0.71 and at 6.1. Wow. So it's not at 1, 6. It's at, oops, come back here, calculator. 0.714, comma 6.14. Wow. So if I stick that in for x, I'm going to get 3 times 7.14. That's 2.342. 3.42 plus 6.14. Let's try that again. Negative 3 times 0.714. Clear. Okay, let's try again. Negative 3 times 0.714 plus 6.14. It's right at 4. Okay, that's better. 0.714 plus 2 times 6.14 parenthesis equals nearly 13. So that works out good. That would be the approximate answers right there. Okay? And that's approximately 1.6. And you see how it looks like it intersects at 1/6, and when I put those in, it didn't check out here on the second one. Therefore, I had to go to the calculator to see if I could find the exact intersection of where they were. And this is the exact intersection right here. Okay. Okay. At a certain theater, a family purchased 2 adult tickets and 4 children's tickets for $42.50. Another family purchased 3 adult tickets and 2 children's tickets for $39.75. So they're wanting to know the cost of the children's tickets. So let's work this out. 2 adults plus 4 children's equals 42.50. And 3 adults plus 2 children equals 39.75. So let's see here. Let's do this by, we're wanting to find the children's ticket. Okay? So let's solve this first one for A. A plus 2C is equal to 21.25. What did I do? I divided by 2. And so A is equal to 21.25 minus 2C. I can now take this and put it into this equation here for A. 3 times 21.25 minus 2C plus 2C equals 39.75. Okay, now I'm going to do distributive property. 63.75 minus 6C plus 2C equals 39.75. If I subtract the 63.75 from both sides, I'm going to get, oops, can't do it in my head. Negative 24 is equal to negative 4C. So if I divide by negative 4, C is equal to 6. That means that the children's ticket cost $6 a piece. Okay, let's move forward. This one is asking me to draw the graph of x squared plus 3x. Okay, one of the first things I want to do here is factor the x out of it, and I get x and x plus 3. Why did I do that? That gave me the two x-intercepts. One of them's going to be at 0, and one of them's going to be at negative 3. Just like that. Okay? Now, if I want to find the vertex, what's going to be halfway between these two, it's going to be at 1.5 something. So when I stick 1.5 in for x here, I get 1.5 squared plus 3 times 1.5. Now, working that out in my head, 1.5 squared plus 3 times 1.5 is going to be equal to, you know what, you got a problem here, Charles. It's a negative. Now, while it won't make a difference on the squared term, it will make a difference on this one. And I get negative 2.25. That's down here at 2 1/4, right about there. And so I could graph this very easily now by going through that point and going through that point right there. Okay? Now if you want to check this and make certain we've done it correctly, whoops, that didn't go where I wanted it to go. Let's go over here to this and press y equals clear. Y equals clear, clear. Y equals clear. Thank you. And it was x squared and plus 3x, and we do a graph of it. Looks just like that. And if we do a second graph, we'll see it goes through negative 3, 0, and at 0, 0. Cool? Cool. Hope everyone got how I did that. This one says to find the inverse. Remember, if it gives you a function like that, that's really saying y equals 2x plus 7. And the way we find an inverse is we swap the x and the y. X is equal to 2y plus 7. But we need to solve it for y. So that's going to be x minus 7 over 2 is equal to y. That would be the inverse. And the trick there, swapping the x and the y's. Okay? This one says solve this over the domain of real numbers. Well, it's an inequality. So to find it, what we got to do is solve it for x. I'm going to divide by 4, and I'm going to get x plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 4. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. We get x is greater than or equal to negative 6. And so if I were looking to graph this one on a number line like that, I would start at 0 and I would go out here to negative 6, and x is greater than or equal to negative 6. It's going to be a solid point at negative 6 going this way because it's greater than negative 6. And that's the way I would graph it. 13. Solve this one. Well, I can see that I've got x terms on here that need to be combined. So I'm going to get 7y plus 5 is greater than 2y plus 18. I just did the distributive property over here. So I'm going to subtract the 2y, and I'm going to get 5y, and I'm going to subtract the 5. 5y is greater than 13. And when I divide by 5, I'm going to get y is greater than 13 over 5, which is 2 and 3/5. Moving forward. Tricia needs $100 to buy a leather coat. She's saved $48 so far. She plans to wash cars on Saturday morning, charging $6.50 per car. Write and solve an inequality to find the minimum number of cars she must wash to be able to buy the car. So, what do we need? We need, she's charging $6.50 per car. So that's times cars. Okay? And she wants to have $100 total, right? So she wants to have this be greater than or equal to $100, but she already has $48. So I'm going to make certain that I subtract that $48 here. So that's going to give me $52 is 650 cars. So when I divide by cars, I'll take 52 divided by $6.50, and it should come back to tell me she needs to wash more than or at least 8 cars. So if she washes anything more, 8 or more cars, she will have enough money. Cool? Okay. This one is a compound inequality. So you break it up into two things. 7 is less than negative 3x minus 2. Add the 2 to both sides. 9 is less than negative 3x. I'm going to divide by negative 3. And that's going to flip my sign around the other way. And I will have x is less than negative 3. Okay? So let's go the other side of it now. Negative 3x minus 2 is less than or equal to 25. I add the 2 to both sides, and I get negative 3x is less than or equal to 27. Divide by the negative 3. And that's going to flip my sign around. It'll be greater than or equal to x is negative 9. So what do I got? I've got negative 3 is greater than x is greater than or equal to negative 9. Okay, they asked me to graph this solution set too. I just saw that on there. So I draw my little line here. I've got to have a couple of points on it. One of them's got to be negative 9. The other one's got to be negative 3. Okay? And it's greater than or equal to negative 9, so it's a solid point here. It's negative 3 is going to be an open point. It's going to be all the numbers in between here. Okay? The important point is open circle at 3, closed circle at negative 9. That's what they're wanting to make certain you got. Okay? This one they're asking you to graph negative 1/2 x. Well, it's going to go through the origin. It's going to go up 1 and to the right 2. And so it's going to go from here. And it's greater than or equal to, so it's a solid line. It's going to look like that. Okay? But it is an inequality, so we got to decide which side to shade, don't we? Well, I'm going to use the point 1, 1, this point right here. Why? Because it's not on the graph and it's easy to plug in there. 1 is greater than or equal to negative 1 over 2. Is this true? Yes, it's true. That means I would be shading that side of the equation. That means I would shade this side up here. Cool? Cool. Let's go forward to the next one. This one wants me to write the inequality for this graph. Well, I see a dotted line here, so I want to make certain that I'm using just strictly, it's a strict inequality. Okay? So let's see here. Using this point right here, 0, 6, I would say that y minus a negative 6 or plus 6, okay, is that less than or greater than m, and then it would be x minus 0. Okay, well, if I use the 0, 0 point here, 0, 6 is, whoops, first of all, find the slope, Charles. The slope is the change in the y's, 0 minus negative 6 divided by negative 9 minus 0. So it's going to be 6 over negative 9, which is equal to negative 1/3. So y plus 6 and negative 1/3 x. And I don't know which way the symbol is going to go in here, but it's a strict less than or greater than. I don't know which one. So if I use the point 0, 0, 0 in for y gives me a 6, and that's 6 is greater than 0. So 6 is greater than, it'd be this way. Y plus 6 is greater than negative 1/3 x. That would be my final answer. This one, they're wanting me to factor it. I'm going to notice that, first of all, there's a greatest common factor of 4t in every one of those. So if I take a 4t out of each of those, I'm going to get a t squared minus 12t minus 40. Well, they've got inside of here, they've got to multiply to make 40, and they've got to add to make negative 12. I've got to have two factors that do that. Okay? So that means they're both going to be negative numbers. So negative 2 times 20, nope, negative, that becomes a negative 22. That's too big. So negative 4 times 10, negative 10, that's a negative 14. Still too big. Okay. Negative 8 times negative 5, that's a negative 13. Yep, still too big. Okay. Let's see here. What else? Wait a second. 4 is, yes. Oh, wait a second. That's a 3. I forgot to factor the 4 out of that. Why didn't you stop me on that one? Okay. So I'm looking for something that's going to add to a negative 3. I'm sorry. Okay. I think it's got to be a negative 40 that they're multiplying to. So, oh, wait a second. A negative 8 times a positive 5 would give me a negative 3, and it'd give me a negative 40. So that's what I'm going to group it as. So I'm going to have 4t t squared minus minus 8t plus 5t minus 40. And I'm going to group these two together inside of here. And this one is going to have a t factor out of it. And it's t minus 8. And this one over here is going to have a 5 factor out of it. And it's going to be t minus 8. And so my factors are going to be 4t, t plus 5, and t minus 8. That's the way we use the group regrouping and the mama approach to find those values. Okay? Okay. This one we're going to use the FOIL method. We're going to multiply the first together. 6 times 2 is 12. That'd be 12b squared. Outside, 6b times 5 gives me a plus 30b. The inner ones, negative 2 times 2b gives me a minus 4b. And the last terms, minus 2 times 5 gives me a negative 10. We need to do some simplifying here. 12b squared plus 26b minus 10. That's what I would use as my answer. Okay, this one, we're dividing. And when we're dividing polynomials like this, the first thing we do is flip it over and rewrite it. Okay, so h squared plus 6h plus 9 divided by h squared minus h minus 12 times h squared minus 6h plus 8 divided by h minus 2. Well, now we need to factor the top and the bottom of both sides of them. Okay? And this one on top is going to factor to h plus 3 squared. Where did I get that? Well, I took half of 6, that was 3. 3 times 3 is 9, so that became my factor there. I see that one. Okay? This one over here is going to be h minus 4 and h minus 2. Minus 4 times minus 2 gives me a positive 8. Adds together to give me that negative 6. Divided by, let's see, this is going to be h minus 4 and h plus 3 and h minus 2. Now the reason we were doing this factoring is because now we got some things we can cancel out. and we are left with h plus 3. That's my total solution. Okay? Okay, I got 10 more problems. When we're looking for the domain, the things we're looking for is anything being divided by 0 or giving me a negative square root. Those would be things that we would leave out of the domain. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to say 4x plus 5 equals 0. That's 4x equals negative 5. X is equal to negative 5 over 4. That would be the one I want to leave out of the domain. So my domain would be all real numbers with the exception of x not equal to negative 5 over 4. That's what my domain would be. Okay. Here they're wanting me to some to normalize the radical, and so what you do here is you multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5, and you're left with 6 square roots of 5 divided by 5. Here 40 factors into 4 times 10. That's 2 square roots of 10. 50 factors into 25 times 2. That'd be 5 square root of 2. 9 factors into x to the ninth factors into x to the 8th times x. So that'd be x to the 4th. That would be the simple way of doing these radicals. Remember, can't leave a radical in the denominator. Okay? You've got to make certain you get everything that is a factor, that is a square root, out from underneath the square root symbol. Okay? Whenever you're trying to add or subtract things with radicals in them, if the things in the radicals are the same, you can do it. That'd be 21 minus 15, that'd be 6 square roots of 3. If this wasn't the same here, you couldn't add or subtract them. But since they are the same, all you got to do is say 21 minus 15, or 6. Okay, they're wanting me to rewrite these as, instead of writing them as roots, to write them as exponents. Okay, so this is going to be 5 to the 1/3 power. This one is going to be 7 to the 5 over 2 power. And this is going to be 2 to the 9 over 5 power. A few more problems here. If we're doing imaginary numbers, remember you've got to add the real parts and the imaginary parts, and you just leave them separate that way. So this is going to be 14 plus 6i. And this one over here, the 12 minus the 7 gives me a 5. The 3i minus a negative, that means plus 7i. Simply put, factoring this, okay, if we're going to factor this, let's see here, there is no, uh, let's see here, let's do mama. So 4 times negative 2 gives me a negative 8, and they have to add to give me a 7. So they're multiplying to give me negative 8 and multiplying to give me a 7. Okay, well, negative 4 times 2 is negative. That gives me a negative 2. Not very good. Okay, let's see here. 8 times negative 1. That gives me a positive 7. That's how I'm going to regroup it. So I'm going to have 4x squared plus 8x minus 1x minus 2. And I'm going to group these together, and I'm going to say plus Grouping those together. And what are we going to get? We're going to get a 4x out of this one, and I'll be left with an x plus 2. And I'm going to pull out a plus, I'm going to pull out a negative 1 out of this one, and it's going to be an x plus 2. And what do I get? I get 4x minus 1 as one factor, and x plus 2 as the other factor. So if I'm looking to find what my values are, this has got to be equal to 0. So 4x minus 1 equals 0. 4x equals 1x equals 1/4. Or x plus 2 equals 0. X equals negative 2. So my values are negative 2 and 1/4. Okay. This one they're asking me to use the quadratic formula. A is equal to 3, B is equal to negative 10, C is equal to 2. Using my quadratic formula, x is equal to, so negative of a negative is a positive, 10 plus or minus square root, well, negative 10 squared is 100 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times 2 is 24 divided by 6. Okay, so that's 10 plus or minus 100 minus 24. Let's see here. Use my calculator here because I'm really bad at this. 100 minus 24 equals 76. So I'm going to take 10 plus or minus the square root of 76 divided by 6. Let's see here, just to see if it's going to happen. 76 divided by 4. 19. Cool. Thank you. Okay. So what am I going to get? I'm going to take 10 over 6 plus or minus 2 square roots of 19 over 6. And since both of these are divisible by 2, I'm going to get 5 over 3 plus or minus the square root of 19 over 3. And that would be my answer right there. That gives me 2 answers. Cool. Couple more problems here. I'm looking at this one and it says factor it. I see the cubed there. So I'm thinking it's a difference of cubes. That means I use this formula right here. Okay? Well, the cube root of 125 is 5. The cube root of 64 is 2. Isn't it? No, it's 4. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 is 64. Now I'm confused. Okay. Four. Good. Okay. So that means that A is a 5 and B is a 4. I'm sorry. This value here is a 5 and this one over here is a 4. B is a 4. So I'm going to have A. That's going to be 5A minus 4 parenthesis times 5A squared. That's 25A squared plus 20A plus 16. That would be my answer. And And all I did was use this formula right here to write it down. Couple more problems here. This one says solve the system of equations. The way I'm going to solve this is with the matrix, okay? I'm going to have one matrix that's going to be a 3, -4, 1, 1, -1, 3, -2, 3, 8, and that's my A, and my B is going to be 30, 11, and 13. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my calculator here, and I'm going to press second matrix, and I'm going to go into A. I'm going to edit A, and I'm going to say it's a 3 by 3, and it's going to be a 3, a -4, a 1, a 1, a -1, and a 3, a -2, a 3, and an 8. And I'm going to press enter. I'm going to press quit to get out of it. I'm going to press second matrix, and I'm going to go down to B, and I'm going to go edit B. Edit B. It's a 3 by 1, and my values are going to be 30, enter, 11, and 13. Enter. And I'm going to quit. Now, I'm going to multiply matrix A. So I'm going to take second matrix A, and I'm going to multiply that times the inverse of B. Second matrix B inverse, second inverse, not second, inverse, and hit enter. Oops, the other way around. Clear. So, second matrix A, and I want to take the inverse of it times second matrix, I want B, and I hit enter, and it gives me those values right there. So X is going to be equal to -44 and 2/3. Y is going to be equal to -39 and 2/3. And Z is going to be equal to 5 and 1/3. And that's how you do that with the calculator. Okay, let's move forward and get this last problem here. It says consider this function here. What is the y-intercept? Well, you can plug in 0 for x, or you can just look at this value right here. The y-intercept is -1. What are the coordinates of the vertex? Well, to find this vertex, what you have to do is you take the b value, 8, and you take -b over 2a. So that's going to be a it's going to be a -8 over 2 times 2, 4, which is going to be a -2. So that's my x value for uh, my vertex. If I stick -2 in there, I'm going to have 4 times 2 is 8. Let's see here. F of -2 is going to be equal to 8 plus, let's see here, -16 minus 1. That's going to be negative 8 minus 1. That's going to be negative 9. So at negative 2, negative 9 is my vertex. All right. I've got a y-intercept of negative 1. Okay, so that was over 2, so I can go back over here, 1, 2, right there. I can sketch the graph now. It looks like that. My vertex was there at negative 2, negative 9. I had this value here was at 0, negative 1. I also have another point that's going to be at negative 2, negative 4, negative 1. That's how I found the coordinates for that I put on there to graph. Okay, this is my Algebra 2 class. This is the review. So if you need to send me things, make certain you send me the fact that you're in Algebra 2 so that it will help me find your information quicker. And I look forward to hearing from you and talking to you next time.